Liz here, your 50/50 gal, and I am so excited. I am headed on to join Emily as my guest on today's video. Oh, this is gonna be fun because we're gonna talk about our phases of our journey with Starch Solution, and then we're gonna share what we've been eating for lunch every day. So come along and hang out with Emily and I for a little while. Hi, friends. All right, I'm bringing somebody on again. Emily with Plantverse. I'm so excited. We had such a good time chatting this last time. We're like, ooh, we need to come back because many of you were really inspired about our topic last time. So today we wanted to actually break down kind of our weight loss stage, but also we want to share with you guys one of our favorite meals that we're eating for our lunchtime. So we're going to jump in. Hi, Emily. Thank you for being
Hi,
here.
Liz. Hi, everyone. I know Liz and I have had similar but different journeys on how we've eaten and how I've eaten in the beginning. So I've been eating like a Starch Solution way for almost 9 years, but how I ate then, middle, and now is all a little different. So I think it's great because this has not been a linear process, one size fits all throughout. So I think it's really important to share how you tweak things and you evolve within the same umbrella of the way you're eating, but you still evolve a little bit during the whole transition and everything.
And I think the most unique thing that you and I were talking about, what we're going to chat about today, is we have phases. And to be honest, you and I have 3 phases within our journey. So it may be fun just to break down your phase, your first phase, and then my first phase, and then second,
Okay.
third, and then just kind of be able to see. Because I think what people are inspired by and want to hear is everybody has a whole different journey. How they started eating this way, how they were able to lose weight, and then, maintain it. So I think it's just so important because we each have our different personal experiences. So I'm gonna have you hop on and talk about your phase 1.
Yeah. Yeah. So first phase was, like I said, 9 years ago, which is wild. I've been eating this way for almost a decade. But I was coming off of a very standard American diet, which, lots of health problems, yo-yo dieting, weight issues, whatnot. So originally, when I first started the Starch Solution, I was very, yes, I was doing the 50/50 plate, starches, non-starchy veggies, but I was also a lot more free with pasta and breads and bagels and very heavy nut-based sauces. And within those first 90 days, even being more processed stuff and a little bit more nut heavy, but primarily 50/50 plate, I still lost 17 pounds. And you and I are very petite. We're 5 feet, 5'1".
Yeah.
So 17 pounds is a lot. So it was very my body loved me. It was oh my God, I went from a standard American diet to whole food plant-based pretty much. I mean, people can argue pasta and bread, that's not whole food, but it's still under the Starch Solution and but even while eating that stuff, my body just shed the weight. It was yes, this is how you're supposed to eat. My body loved me. It thanked me for that. And even while eating some processed, some higher calorie stuff, but primarily the 50/50 plate, I lost that. And so I ate that way. Yes, the first 90 days was I told myself, I'm okay, I want to prove this Dr. John McDougall wrong. I can't eat carbs. I am the one exception. My body's the one, that doesn't, if I think about a carb, I'll gain weight, that kind of person. So I'm I'm going to give him 90 days. Not that he even knew me at the time, but, and so then I was oh my God, weight dropped, health issues, all the things. And then for, I would say a couple years, that's how I ate. I pretty much maintained that 17-pound weight loss. I wasn't in my world, I wasn't so focused on body composition at the time. It was like I felt good with those 17 pounds off, and I was a plant-based chef in San Diego. So my main focus back then was like fun, extravagant meals, lots of like nut-based sauces and things like that. So I pretty much maintained that 17-pound weight loss for years. And that's kind of what I did for years. So that was my first journey of like losing that, but then maintaining for a while.
So
Okay.
your first initial weight loss was like 17 pounds?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, cool. And how many years?
Did I maintain that?
No, like how long did it take you to lose the
Oh,
17?
the 90 days.
That's it?
Yeah, that like I'm telling you, my body was like, okay, you finally figured it out. I'm gonna thank you for coming off a standard American diet to this way. So shockingly, yes. And then that's what I basically maintained for a while. I was less muscular back then, and my body back then and now does look very different. But at that time in my life, I was very happy with that weight loss. And then, of course, we all know maintaining it is a whole new journey, but I was pretty much able to maintain it even while I was in chef life. And I was happy with that for a while. Like that was that journey. But then, as we know, we get different goals and things need to change.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and that's kind of similar to mine because I was eating this way since like 2016. So I'm about 8 years in, but I
Yeah.
didn't learn, I was doing, vegan, but I was doing nuts, seeds, all that. So I didn't
Mhm.
lose any weight in those 4 years when I switched over. So that was interesting. But then when I went
You
to
eat like vegan junk food?
it wasn't vegan junk food. It was more like nuts and seeds,
Okay.
sauces. Like I would put like a ton of peanut butter on my
Yeah.
oatmeal, and like I was like dressing heavy, but I did
Yeah.
cut out like oil, so I didn't actually lose a lot of weight during that
Oh,
moving
okay.
over. And so I was
Yeah.
like, I really need to do something else. So that was like 4 years. So in 2020, I found Starch Solution, and so in that first like I would say 1 year, I lost 30 pounds.
Wow. Okay.
But, like I literally took it one meal at a time and I started walking and I just kind of put everything into play. Like I remember like every single meal that I would eat for that first year, I'd have like oatmeal in the morning and then I would make sauteed vegetables. So I'd have a 50-50. And
Mm-hmm.
then also too, like in those 4 years, I wasn't eating a lot of vegetable because I didn't know about starch solutions. So that's like a whole thing where like people may be thinking they're eating healthy because they're cutting out the oil and they're having nuts and seeds and they're not having a standard American diet. But like I wasn't losing weight because I was still doing a lot of the other things and I wasn't
Yeah.
incorporating veggies. And then my afternoon, I would always make like potatoes and hummus and I would dip
Uh-huh.
those and then I would have like a veggie. I'd have the stir fry sauteed vegetables that I made in the morning. I would have it for lunch. So I
Uh-huh.
had like two meals then and with the veggies. And then at night I would make a lavash like pizza. So I'd
Uh-huh.
take the Trader Joe's lavash and put homemade oil-free hummus on it. And then I would roast vegetables like 30 minutes before. And then I'd
Yeah.
put that on there with a little like cilantro. And it was so good. And I had that meal for like those 3 meals for probably 4 or 5 months. Like
Yeah. I'm the
it
same
was,
as you. I can do that.
yeah. And so that's what I did. And so that was like my first phase. And so, after that like first year of losing like 30 pounds, I was like maintaining, but I
Hmm.
knew that there was more to lose.
Hmm.
And so I kind of got into this place of like, what's next for me? So that's my like phase one.
Yeah. Okay. And yeah, that sounds like you had some processed things, you were probably more starch heavy, you had a little bit more nuts and seeds. Very much can lose weight on that in a beginning phase, especially if you have more weight to lose.
Mhm.
If you only started out needing to lose 5 pounds, that would be a different story. But okay, so that sounds, yeah, it's kind of like on par with me. So then what happened next is I would say, oh gosh, how was it? It was like 4 years into the Starch Solution and chef life. When I meal prepped and as a private chef, I cooked Starch Solution for my clients, like no oil, the whole shebang. But then 4 years in, I was like, I just kept wanting to learn. And I was like, I'm going to actually sign up for the 12-day McDougall program. And so I went through that, and calorie density like really hit home for me. I had knew about it, but like sometimes you just need to hear things 100 times and like for it to finally be like, oh my God, like, okay, if I want, and so then that is really when I got into the body composition stage where I was like, I had some vanity pounds. Like I looked fine, but like for myself, I wanted to trim down, tone up. I wanted that vanity weight off. And I knew what I was doing. I was just at a standstill. My calories were evened out. What I was taking in and burning was the same and had been. So then calorie density like hit me like a ton of bricks. I was like, okay, this makes more sense. I need to up those veggies. But I was still a volume eater. So I was like, okay, I want to have my cake and eat it too. I still want to eat volume, but I want to lose weight and be in a calorie deficit. And I look at the calorie density scale and it's like vegetables are the lowest calorie food. So I was like, okay, great. Let's just eat a lot of those and then everything else, less of those, more of the vegetables. So really it took me like shifting to be vegetable heavy, which that's always the thing people tend to do less of. The starch is easy. That's no brainer. And so like even my clients who come to me eating this way, I'll start to see their meals and automatically I'm like, more veggies, more veggies. And I'm like, I feel like I am like, I can't say that enough. And they're probably like, oh my God, shut up about the veggies. But it's what did it for me. So for a couple years, I got really into body composition. And that's where I lost the last 10 pounds or so, which happened in 5 months. So obviously, the less amount of weight I needed to lose or wanted to lose, it took longer. So that's when I really did get into volume eating though. So like I mean, this is a pretty big bowl, but like all like I would even eat out of mixing bowls. And primarily it was a ton of vegetables and my starch was a little less portioned out than my vegetables. And I lost I mean, that weight, like, no, it didn't come off like, we all wish it would come off faster, but like within 5 pounds, like, or 5 months, sorry, I was at my goal weight, which I can talk more about goal weight, but, yeah, so the volume eating still worked for me, but it was only because I had to be really veggie heavy. I did cut out like all processed stuff. I did cut out all nuts and seeds. So, the only fat I was getting was traces, all whole food, plant-based has fat in it. Traces, even fruit has fat in it. So I felt absolutely healthy. My energy I didn't crave that or anything. I didn't need that. Like I felt absolutely amazing. But I didn't want to give up that volume eating. So I was like, how can I have my cake and eat it too? How can I eat volume but lose weight? Because I want to, want to get in that body composition. And that was what I did is I ate a lot of vegetables, breakfast, lunch, dinner, a little less starch than the vegetables. And then all my sauces were like bean based or tofu based. So no more nut based sauces. I really had a goal in mind and I'm like, okay, I'm going to do this. And you and I are the same. We're creatures of habit. And so, yeah, I mean, it took I hate the word strict, but I really I needed to follow that if I had this certain goal in mind. And I did it and that's how I got there. So I did that for a couple years. So that was like my middle way of the last 10 pounds for me.
Yeah, and I think too, like sometimes it's just getting to the root of you're gonna have to be strict for a little while, then you will have some freedom around
It's
food,
not
but
forever.
it's not forever. And that's where you have to almost like it's really hard because it looks like you're gonna have to do this forever, but you really
Very
don't.
conscious. Yeah.
And I should say too, in my phase one, I did the McDougall program as well, the 12 day, and it was amazing. And right when I switched to Starch Solution in 2020, I learned calorie density and I was like, whoa, I can't even believe that I don't know this.
I
Like,
know.
and then it was like the secret sauce of like, here's what you do for sure.
Mhm.
So my second phase was kind of what you're saying is like, I had lost the 30 pounds. I was feeling confident in my body and I was enjoying things, but I would incorporate like more bread and things like that. And then that's when I contacted you. And we talked about this the last time, but I looked at you in a space of saying, whoa, she just eats so simple
Mhm.
and she doesn't have to worry about her next meal. She's not trying to be creative, like you're just eating food for fuel. Like
Mhm.
food can be fun. Like I think my meals are fun. But
Yeah.
at the same time, I was like, I need to lose probably at the time, I think I told you like 10 to 15
You did,
pounds,
yeah.
which I ended up getting over 20 pounds working with you. And I lost that in literally 3 months, even though I
Yep.
continued like a whole nother month with you. So that's what I'm saying. Like, and I didn't have a ton to lose either, but it was the consistency. And, the thing that you had taught me too is like, just change the way you build your dish,
Yeah.
right? So I was more focused on, I picked my three starches. It was oats, potatoes, and rice, and
Mhm.
then any vegetables. And then instead of like, so I wouldn't get sick of vegetables now I love them, but like I would sometimes have like some maybe roasted vegetable with a little bit of salad, on like that side, I use my little 50-50
Mhm.
dish, but that's how I literally built every single meal. So it was like, I started really incorporating more vegetable and like a really clean starch instead of, not saying that bread is bad, but my body just started loving the oats, rice, and potatoes. And I just stuck with it because I think it also like working with you, it taught me like that I could be disciplined, but also like start falling in love with just simple things.
Yeah.
And
And
that's like it clicked. And so
yeah.
that's my like phase two of being like, hey, I originally lost 30 pounds, then an additional 20, and I'm 50 pounds lighter, which is insane.
Right. Yeah.
And basically 4 years from when we're filming this. And so it's just been just finding you and you inspiring me to eat so simple. And I feel like I have like I talk about it now as like food freedom. Like I'm not worried about my next meal. I rarely do any prepping. I just have like I do prep my vegetables because I like them like ready to go and
Yeah.
all of that. But I don't even prep my starches hardly anymore. Like if I think
Yeah.
I want like mashed potatoes for dinner, I just like turn my Instant Pot on an hour before dinner and boom, done, right? Like I used to be like a meal planner before, I started working with you and I'd be like, ooh, what can I like create and make? Now I'm like, I can't even think about life like that anymore.
Well, it's just like that kitchen fatigue. I'm like, no one can sustain that. No one can sustain. Oh my God, sustain eat like having to think of breakfast and lunch and dinner and do that how many times a week? Like I don't care what diet you're trying to do. Like that's not good. That's going to work for a very short time. And you and I both started this way of eating, and it was the newness factor, right? The newness of this way of eating. So we wanted to be way more creative, and I'm thankful for that. It gave me a chef career out of it, and I'm like, that worked for me at one point. But then I was like, okay, if I want to eat this way the rest of my life, which I absolutely do, I got to think like simplicity and consistency. Those are the two main things. That is the only way I can do this the rest of my life. And when you came to me, I could tell you're like more type A, like very much like meal planner. And then that started to dwindle as we started working together. I'm like, oh, good. She's morphing into like, how I do this because it's so freeing. It's so like to not have to think of every meal as like, Dr. McDougall says, people are treating every meal like Thanksgiving. Like it's like, it has to be extravagant and exciting and this, and then they overeat it because it's so exciting. And it's like, for us, it's like when we eat simple, I mean, all my meals are so freaking good. Like I'm like, every meal, I'm like, God, who would not want to eat this way? They're simple and they're easy, but they're still delicious. It needs to be delicious in order to also sustain this. Um, But yeah, that's what I saw when you first came to me. Instantly, I knew. I was like, oh, we need to up the veggies first and foremost. Besides even taking away anything, she needs to up those veggies. And then as we kept working together, you got in your routine. I mean, you are the consistency queen and you got your walking in. And yeah, again, it was like that shift from what you did in the beginning. You just needed to tweak it a little bit. And like, people, even my clients watch your YouTube on the plateau series, and they were like, God, it doesn't look like she's changing much. And I'm like, she didn't. It was just like changing a teeny tiny bit and doing that consistently. It's the key.
It was key. And that's like, and like, I almost think that's like one of the greatest gifts that I've ever given myself was to hire you to learn about food, learn about my body. And now I'm like so lazy in the kitchen. Like, I don't even want to get out my blender even one time a week, partly. Like, I'm so lazy. But, and I say lazy because it's like, I don't, but, and to be honest, I don't even want my mind or my body to crave like the other things because
I know.
I don't want to make it. I know that I can't go out and buy it at the grocery store because there's
Yeah.
no such thing,
Right.
unless you find like a private chef or something that can make like all these things. But like I
Yeah.
like the simplicity factor
Mhm.
of like just life around simple foods.
Yeah. And it's so true. And I posted on my Instagram recently about this on like an aha moment is like, a lot of people can look at the way that we eat as restrictive. And I'm like I've never felt that way ever once. Like if anything, I'm just like I look at it as like I get to eat this way. Like all the stuff that I don't even look at it as I can eat. It's like I don't have to eat that and feel like shit.
Yeah.
um but by control, what I said on my Instagram is like by controlling this one thing in my life, aka like what goes in my mouth, I have so much freedom in every other aspect of my life. I have freedom looking in the mirror. I have freedom weighing myself. I have freedom walking, going skiing. I feel so good in my body. And it's like, this is not restrictive because sure, I am controlling what goes in my mouth. It's not a free for all. I would be so miserable if I just ate whatever I wanted. So I'm like, this is not restrictive. And for me to finally like, I couldn't figure out how to elaborate on that. I was like, people can probably see this as restrictive, but I'm like, this by controlling this one thing and actually enjoying it, I have so much freedom in every other aspect of my life. And I'm sure you feel the same way.
Yeah. And that probably leads you to your phase three, right?
Yeah. So, okay, so now I would say it's been about a year now that I've transitioned to what I call my phase three. So really what I do is I'm my biggest guinea pig. And I'm like, okay, so after eating volume for like 4 years, I love it. I love eating. So I'm like, no one's going to take away the amount of food I'm going to eat. But I myself was kind of like, okay, I kind of want to see like I want to not have to eat so much to feel satisfied. I can do it and I can lose weight and so that's all great and everything, but this was more so like I want to not eat quite as much volume but feel the same amount of satiation. So I'm like, you know what? Why not be my biggest guinea pig? And so now and this has been about a year and so I'm at maintenance phase and that is like I said a whole new ball game. Fluctuate weight 1 pound, 2 pounds here, whatever. But okay, so what I'm doing now is I'm doing like my starch. Okay, so if we're gonna look at it as a 50-50 plate, I'll do 50% non-starchy veggies, 25% starch, and then 25% over protein. And now I'm like, I cringe a little bit about talking about protein because I don't want to give this topic any more light than it already has. But I was just like, I want to try a little bit of overt protein to see if it hits a satiation where I don't need to eat so much volume. So when I say overt protein, I'm talking beans, lentils, tofu, tempeh, edamame. Those are pretty much my main protein sources. So yeah, if we're looking at it as a 50-50 plate, it's 50% veggies, 25% starch, 25% over protein. Um, I've been doing this for almost a year, and I have noticed a a big difference. Like I am way more satisfied. I would not say way more satisfied, but I'm more satisfied eating less volume. And I don't want to say being a volume eater is a bad thing. It's great, trust me, but just for my own personal journey, and I have still been able to maintain my weight, eating this way. And I am now adding more fats in. So like I will do regular peanut butter instead of PB2 in my oatmeal. I dates for me were a binge food and were an off limits food for a while because it's harder for me sometimes to moderate than, I might as well just omit. It's easier just to like not think about it. So that was a food for a long time I didn't have, but I've incorporated dates, peanut butter, nut seeds, nut-based sauces, but slowly. That like I have learned before, if I add all those things in way too fast, like my weight will go up. So really it was just like, okay, for a while I'm going to add regular peanut butter to my oats, and that's going to be my over fat for the day. And I've added up a little bit. I probably have pasta once a week, twice a week. I go out to eat once a week. And my plate build is different, and I'm adding a little bit over overt fats. But again, primarily that plate build is what I'm eating. The extra stuff is very slow to come in. I've learned my lesson many times. So, but this is maintenance phase for me. And I'm not eating as much volume, but I guess I feel happier that way right now. Right now, it could change, but right now, just because, sometimes a lot of veggies does extend my stomach too much, and I'm like, I feel fine, and 20 minutes goes by and I feel it's like digested, but still, I don't want to always feel that way after I eat. So this has been a great test, and it's almost been a year, and I'm still going to continue going with it. So it's weird. It's not, I'm not like my phase one. It's different than my phase one. Because I was doing really heavy on like the processed stuff and the fats. And now it's like the processed stuff and the fats are just little extras from my plate build. And so I guess, yeah, my biggest transition is I'm not eating as much volume by switching up my ratios of protein, starch, and veggies. Does that make sense?
Yeah, completely. And you and I had
Okay.
talked about that, offline as well. Like, and I've been starting to incorporate tofu or a bean one meal a day. Just
Yep.
like once again, like just kind of explore. See, that's my lunch.
Yeah, I just got mine here.
And so I'm exploring like slowly bringing that in because so basically my phase is I've lost, the weight now. And I give myself like a 5 pound grace period depending on like my cycle,
Mhm.
water weight. So I'm never like if I went down like negative, 5 from my ideal weight to +5, it's just like my comfort zone. Like, and then
Same.
also it allows me not to have to stress about
Mhm.
my weight, right? So if I'm like 2 pounds a little heavier, I'm back to the original like two,
Yeah.
3 days later. So I like to give myself like a 5 pound. And so like you said, I used to have veggies and oats for breakfast.
Yes.
So I now don't have veggies. I'm now just doing a big thing of oats, which is not really that big. I use like a half a cup of oats to 3/4 cup with a
Oh,
ton of water, And
I don't do veggies in the morning either, too, by the way.
yeah, so
So,
I used to with my breaking my plateau,
mhm.
right? Because I had to kind of train myself to like them. And so it kind of took me a little while to like get off of that train because I actually do enjoy it.
Mhm.
And then my lunch now is just I still like my 50/50 veg.
Mhm.
And then my starch. And then at night I'm adding in like a bean or a tofu. So,
Yep.
and I feel like I'm doing really good with that. And I eat really early in the evening before, like I like to have like 4 hours. So I feel like that extra bean or tofu, I'm not hungry. And I think
Yeah.
the biggest thing about my phase three is I wanted to be the person at the end of this journey of like my maintenance mode to get into my maintenance mode and not crave things that like require time or energy or like
Mhm.
I never wanted to be the person that craves chocolate. I don't
Yeah.
want to like crave like a carrot cake or something. Like I wanted to get to a place where like I just ate my like meal and maybe had like a snack of like fruit or veggies and that's it. And
Yeah.
I finally got to that, right? Like from working with you and then now like a year and a half later, I feel good
Hmm.
because I don't
Yeah.
have to like worry about my next meal. I'm not one to snack. I don't have cravings. Like people are like, oh, you're craving something. I'm like craving something. I have like this beautiful meal and I don't need anything else. And so I think that's really like what's evolved over, my journey of 4 or 5 years now is like I just the simplicity of it.
Yeah, I know. I'm the same way. And it's funny because I was telling you, like, I am in my creative brain right now, which is only going to last who knows long. It could go away pretty soon. But I've been posting some recipes again, which is shocking. But I posted like a broccoli cheddar soup, and I'm like, it was really good. However, I'm like, damn it, now I'm gonna want this, and now I'm gonna have to make it. Like, I'm like, I don't, like you said, I don't want to have to crave things that puts more effort. And I laugh that you said that because it's so true. Because I'm like, dang, that was really good, but am I gonna have to make that every week?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, like I don't even want to like hardly make a cheese sauce anymore. And I would like to make my scalloped potatoes that I like was known for, in my breaking my plateau with your cheese sauce and stuff.
yeah,
Now I'm to the point where I'm like, I would like it, but I've almost now thought like those are gonna be things that I make if like people were to come over but it's not gonna be like my standard. Once again, it's soup, like it helped me lose the weight. Like it's a really good food, but I don't even want to do that anymore.
I know. And it just becomes because this is our life. Like this is, I mean, this is how we will eat forever. And it's like, I think people get really excited when they first start a way of eating, and which we both did. But we are at the point I'm just like, food is an afterthought, and that is so freeing. My mind every day used to be like, okay, I had breakfast. Now what's for lunch? What's going to be for dinner? What's going to be my snack? Like literally my brain all day used to just be like, food, and I'm like, now it's such an afterthought that it's like it's on autopilot. And I'm like, again, that is so freeing. But it took us a journey to get there. It didn't happen
Yeah.
overnight. I think it's great for people to be excited and want to do recipes, but I'm like, but those recipes should be like your one-offs to your normal plate builds. Because I'm about to post something on Instagram, but it's like people don't need another recipe. They don't need another meal plan. They need the fundamentals. They need the plate builds. And in my program I just released, it's all about how to build a plate for, a calorie deficit. Because people are skipping over the basics and they just want like a whole food plant-based recipe that they're gonna like. It's like, no, 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 we got to figure out ratios, portions. No, you don't have to calorie count, but like you need to learn how to build your plate. So I think that's the missing link a lot of times from eating healthy, which is great and everything, but like if you want weight loss too, you need the fundamentals. And
Yeah.
that's what
I think the funny thing even today's our YouTube is like I was like, oh my gosh, I have to plan even a few hours before what I'm gonna make for this. I was getting flustered
I
because
know.
like I eat the same thing, but then I'm like, oh, I have to like actually like start planning
Oh,
it.
I know.
Just go
I
in the
know.
kitchen and I grab like a veg and I think of like, what's the three starches I mostly eat, and then I just put something together. So even just having to like plan this, I was like,
You know,
whoa.
yesterday I did a Zoom workshop and it was everything that I prep in a week. I like the very easy and all my cupboard staples, sauces and everything. And I don't know, it was just like, oh, like I don't know. It's like, oh, my brain has to work and think about food for a second again. I'm like, oh, I'm not used to that.
Yeah, yeah. So
That's
how
why
fun.
like today, I don't know if we want to move on to
Yeah.
like what we eat, but like today, like literally I haven't even eaten breakfast yet. So I'm like, this is what I'm gonna eat for breakfast. So it's genuinely what I eat. So do you want me to start?
Yeah. So y'all, just so you know, it's 11:15 my time, 10:15 Emily's time. I have not eaten breakfast. She hasn't either. So we're just like moving into lunch. So
Yeah.
Emily, you start. I'm gonna grab a few things out of my fridge, but you start and do your
Okay, if I'm
demo.
right here, can you
I can
see?
see. Yep,
Okay.
I can see you. Yep.
Okay, so first thing, again, I have been eating this for breakfast, but also can be lunch if, yeah, it just depends on my day. So, first thing I do is I love like lettuce and to like build up my meal. Again, I like the crunch factor. I like the volume. So I'm gonna throw a little lettuce just as my base kind of thing. And I like with this meal I'm doing, I like a little crunch. So just do a little lettuce in there. Um, and then I call my clients all know I call them fluffy vegetables. So bulky vegetables, what you chew, they hold a lot of water. And this cauliflower. And so also with my steamer, Liz, do you have the same one?
Yeah, I have it in gray though.
Yeah. My most used kitchen tool ever.
Yeah, me too.
So,
Like, and it's the same size as yours. Yeah.
yeah. I looked yesterday and it's like 62 ounces or 68 ounces. Yeah, 68. Okay, so for making this, so I'm gonna put this on the fluffy veggies on 50% of my plate. And then so if I'm doing, my plate build now, it's now 25% is going to be my starch, which is in this case, rice. I prefer white rice, but honestly, any rice is great. I make just like my oats. I was telling the Zoom class I did yesterday, just like my oats, I make my rice with a ton of water. So it's like almost sticky sushi rice. It's like big and fat and full of water, but it's really satisfying. And that's how I make white rice more satisfying. Okay, and then in my protein portion, I've been really into refried beans lately. But for everyone that may or may not know this, when you buy refried beans, you need to buy fat-free. Otherwise, they'll have lard in them typically. So make sure they say, vegetarian or fat-free. So then this will be my 25% quote unquote like over protein portion. So looks like this. So we got the rice, the beans, veggies, lettuce on the bottom. And again, the lettuce is more just for like crunch factor. And then my cheese sauce that I have, and this is on my Instagram. It's the tofu based cheese sauce. Okay, so this is something I do make weekly. It's my one sauce I make. When I make it, it makes two of these tubs, so it lasts me all week. My dog trying to go outside.
It's so funny. Some people would ask me, like in my Breaking My Plateau, I would make your cheese sauce in your book, your
Yeah.
recipe book, and like I would use it for like 2 weeks, and people are like, does it go bad?" And I'm like, "No, like it doesn't." I wouldn't tell people like, "Oh, it's good for two
Yeah.
weeks," but like I'm okay with that.
I like never think food goes bad. My fiance is like, "Oh my God, like how old is that?" I'm like, "I don't know, there's no dairy or meat in it." But
That's how I
like,
feel. Oh, that looks so
so
good.
this literally tastes like Taco Bell in a bowl. And this is what I'm going to eat after this. And it's like so satisfying. My queso, the refried beans, the rice. Oh my God, I can't get enough of it.
Yeah, I
Um,
love that you add the lettuce as just a crunch factor. I'm gonna try that because I think I like today I'm gonna make a salad, but like it's my actual veg, right?
yeah.
So I'm definitely gonna try that.
Yeah, I like it. And like, so even if the food is warm, I'll throw it in last. It will probably like get a little soft, but still when I mix it all, it still has that crunch factor.
Yeah.
So like my clients, if they have to go to work and they like meal prep or whatever, they'll bring a bag of lettuce and add the lettuce at the end because soggy factor, but it's like the crunch thing. I don't know, it's like a mental thing that I
Oh,
really
I like that. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna do that.
yeah.
Okay. Yum, yum, yum.
So tried and true, that meal
All
is
right.
delicious.
Okay, so here's my simple 50-50. So I love this is a sweet potato, Japanese. And I roast it for 1 hour at 400 degrees and I just cut it in half, see, and then
Cut
roast it.
that before.
Yeah, I cut it before and then I put it down on parchment paper like this.
Yeah.
And it is like so, I mean,
Nice.
it's like gooey inside.
So
It's
good.
steaming. You can, oh, so good. So that's basically what I have for my starch. And then I'm really picky about my lettuce, just naturally. So I like to like pre-chop it so it's like really small. It's like a chopped salad. Just
Yeah,
and
it's
it's
better that
yeah,
way.
and this is what I tell people is like if you're gonna eat veggies and fall in love with veggies, make sure you like them and
Mhm.
you cut them to scale, right? So like my cucumbers and carrots are super small. And like every time I take like a salad to somebody's house, they're like, I love how you chop it because they're just like, it's just different. So, and
Extra
then
good.
this is like my tried and true. I have Dijon mustard. And so what I do is I take half of the Dijon out of it and put it with water. So this is
Oh,
like shaky and it's
uh-huh.
like nice and runny. And
Yeah, that's a good
it's
idea.
like a salad dressing and then just Trader Joe's coconut aminos. And
Mhm.
this is like hardly any fat. So I just like, so I'm making like a chopped salad. And the key here for this is I really like being able to mix it in a side bowl first.
Yes,
And I
that's
can get
very
like
important.
everything coated. And that's great for me. But like it can be super simple, but this is like a lot of salad,
Yeah.
right? It's kind of like how much you made. So then I just put it here in my sometimes I have to like literally not even be able to fill this thing.
Well, I know. I'm like, I always need a bigger bowl. It's
And like
like,
for me, it looks like this is like super bulk, but like this isn't actually that much veg, I feel like.
especially it's like the lettuce. I call it, my fluffy veggies are the bulky veggies, but like lettuce and greens is my filler, and it's like a filler veggie. Yeah.
So that's what I'm having for my meal. And like this is a big potato for me to eat too. So
Yeah.
this
Oh
would
my
be
God. I wish I had more access to Japanese sweet potatoes. They're so good. I have access to Hannah white sweet potatoes, which is
yeah.
great. But every time I go to Seattle, I go and I stock up on those. I'm like, they're like making me drool right now. I'm like, oh, okay, I miss those.
Well, and I think too, there's something really nice about it, like being kind of like tough
Uh-huh.
on the outside and then gooey in the inside.
No, I know. Like perfect or potato perfectionist. I'm like, if you want to know how to cook a potato, I'm like, when I talk about my potatoes, I'm like, I feel like I'm talking about my significant other. I'm like, what would I do without potatoes?
And I think that's the thing too, like with your food, like you've fallen in love with this, you have a method, you know
Yeah,
what works. And so it's like finding out like what that method is for somebody.
yeah, yeah,
Like if you gave me a big salad and it had like a ton of lettuce and it wasn't cut, like I just wouldn't
yeah,
be as like desirable for me. But
yeah.
because it's like that, I'm like, oh, it's so good. Like it's an
Every,
experience.
yeah, everyone's like different too. Like with their, all day I see my clients' food and everyone is so different, especially on texture, what they're going to enjoy. Like my biggest thing, because I know what is going to work for me, is I have to enjoy the food. That is above all else. Like I'm always asking my clients, did you enjoy that? Can you see yourself eating that again? That kind of thing, because that is what's going to be sustainable. If you have, I have weird, I'm such a weird food eater. Like with my oatmeal, I have to stick it in the freezer for like 10 minutes because I do not like food hot. Same with my
Yeah.
soup. I don't like hot food. And so, but that's what's good for me. And
Yeah.
that's everyone else can think that's really weird. But I'm like, that's how I enjoy it.
Yeah. And that's why, like, working with you, I started finding out, like, how I like to cook things, how I like the size of things. Do I like it roasted, sauteed, steamed? Like, and really exploring that. And then the kitchen becomes so easy.
Right. I know it. Anything new is always hard. So
Yeah.
it's always kind of like trial and error. And I say that to all my clients. Like this way of eating is not restrictive. It's not hard, but like any way you transition to eating, it's gonna feel you're like Bambi walking for the first time. So it takes a little bit to figure out like how do you like your vegetables?
Yeah.
And in the same way, like if my clients are struggling with vegetables, I'm like, you don't need to eat 21 different vegetables. Literally, if you want to eat two vegetables, that's all you need. If all you like is broccoli and zucchini, don't worry about anything else. Just find what you will actually eat and enjoy. So that's huge for making this sustainable is like trial and error on figuring out what you like and how you like it.
It totally is. Oh my goodness. So this was so fun. We're gonna dig into our food after.
Yeah. I'm like, okay, now I'm really hungry. I'm like, now it's getting to
I
lunchtime.
know. I'm like, yes, yes. So, okay, this was so fun. So I love that we were able to share our three phases and just, allow people to get to know you better,
Yeah.
myself better, and just kind of find out like what works for you. I think that's really good for everybody just to figure that out. Any last notes, Emily?
No, this is great. I love like going back and forth with you because we've worked together. I've seen, we've seen it. We're very similar, but also different things work for us. So it's like I always love to see what you do and versus what I do. It's not one size fits all, that's for
Yeah.
sure. So no, this is so fun. I love doing this. We need to do this more.
I know we need to do it more. And I think it just also gives people a perspective like our height and weight is probably about the same, right? You're more muscular than I am for sure. Let's just make that known. Life goals. But it people can see like what you do, what I do, and it's like you said, it's not a one size fits all, and it's like really tweaking and figuring out and like almost being a guinea pig for yourself of like what is going to work for you. How are you going
Yeah.
to fall in love eating this way?
Exactly. I'm like, we're our biggest guinea pigs, and it's fun. It's fun to keep evolving with this. There's no end goal. This is always going, what I eat now may not be what I eat next year. I mean, similarly, but to me, it's very different. I'm like, whoa, I'm eating so different. And other people are probably like, what's different about it? But it's like to me, it feels very different.
So funny because a lot of people want to see what we're eating, but like for me, I used to always show what I was eating, and I rarely do now because I eat the same thing. I mean, I'm like, it has to be boring.
I know, same. I'm like, everyone's like, what, the what I eat in a day videos,
Yeah.
and like there's
Hard because
influencers out there and they're very fun to watch. And I'm like, oh, that's exciting. But like I would never put the energy into doing that. But yeah, what I use very simple and it
yeah,
works. I absolutely
for
love it
sure.
and enjoy it.
All right, well, thank you for being here. Where can people find you, Emily?
Plant Versed on my Instagram. I have everything there. Also my website, plantversed.com. I came out with a new program recently. I do one-on-one coaching and I have a January challenge. It's a group challenge. So I have all that on my Instagram and my website.
Okay, perfect. And anybody that's looking for like individual coaching, I cannot recommend Emily enough. Watch my series, My Breaking My Plateau. Like she started making debuts like a year and a half ago on my channel. So now I'm like, oh my gosh, you need to come on more. So
I know.
I appreciate you being here. And I just enjoyed the conversation and also showing our food.
Thanks, Liz,
All
and
right. Thanks, everyone. That was so fun hanging out with Emily for like an hour. Wow. Our phases are so cool in our journey all around Starch Solution. I need to make sure that you are subscribed to my channel. Actually, Emily and I talked, and we're going to do a fun live recording very, very soon. So more details to come. So make sure to subscribe so that you are the first to know when that is going to take place. Here is my meal. We just got done, and I am going to eat this meal up. Look how gooey this is. I am so thankful I get to eat this way. So good. Thank you for tuning in to today's show. I'll see you next time.